Could a ketogenic diet help with cognition and mental performance with sleep deprivation? Well, a new study suggests it might. I'm Dr. Brett Scher, the medical director at dietdoctor.com, and I love seeing articles about sort of novel or different ways of using ketogenic diets or exogenous ketones to see if it can help people in certain areas of their life. And frequently it does have to do with the brain, because we know the brain functions differently when it's using fat and ketone for fuel rather than glucose for fuel. And so a new study suggests this might be the case in military personnel. Now, I only have the abstract on this, I don't have the full study, but it looks really interesting, so I wanted to talk about it. It's from a research group in New Zealand, and it's called The Effect of a 2-Week Ketogenic Diet versus a Carbohydrate-Based Diet on Cognitive Performance, Mood, and Subjective Sleepiness During 36 Hours of Extended Wakefulness in Military Personnel, and is published in Medical Sciences Forum. And this is really important. I mean, you think about the practical implications of this, right? At home in our cushy jobs, and, we can get our, 7 or 8 hours of sleep every night. If you're in the military and you're out on a battlefield, or certainly if you're on like a SEAL extraction mission or something like that we might think of as crazy, but which happens all the time, right? They can't bed down every day for 8 hours. They have to be up for days at a time. So question is, what can we do to help their cognitive performance? And that's what they looked at with this study. So it was really interesting. So it was a randomized crossover study where the military personnel were eating either a ketogenic diet, which was less than 25 grams of carbs per day, or a carbohydrate-based diet, which was 285 grams per day. They ate that diet for 14 days, and then they immediately had 36 hours of wakefulness, at which point they underwent a series of different tests. So they tested cognitive performance with what's called a 5-minute psychomotor vigilance task. And they also had subjective sleepiness and mood, and they tested, of course, blood sugar and beta-hydroxybutyrate. And what they found was those following a ketogenic diet actually had improved performance on the psychomotor vigilance task, which sort of had to do with like reaction times and mental lapses and things like that. But the ketogenic diet was significantly better. Those, when they were following a ketogenic diet, had significantly better performance compared to when they were following the carbohydrate diet. And their subjective sleepiness was much better as well. And the other findings, of course, expected were the beta-hydroxybutyrate levels were much higher in the ketogenic diet, and the glucose levels were lower. So in this study, it does appear that being in ketosis by following a ketogenic diet helped with cognitive and mental performance and mood and sleepiness with a 36-hour sleep deprivation after just 2 weeks on the diet. So that's got pretty significant implications for this group that was studied, for the military. But what about for the average person, right? Like, we may not be having 36 hours of awake time, but maybe we have a really bad night's sleep and only get 4 hours one night because our kid was up, or because we had to study for an exam, or we had a project that was due, or, these things happen on a fairly regular basis, and we know how important sleep is, and we know that our performance declines significantly with poor sleep. So could being in ketosis help with that? Well, if you extrapolate this study to those scenarios, then yeah, maybe it could. Now, we can't say, of course, it applies because that wasn't studied, but certainly is suggestive of it. And that goes along with this, improved cognition and mental function that so many people feel subjectively on a ketogenic diet. The evidence on that is still a little wishy-washy, I guess you could say, but there isn't a lot of evidence out there. But from a clinical perspective, a lot of people see that. And now we might see a reason why. Like, maybe it helps with performance in the face of poor sleep. Now, this study used a ketogenic diet. Other studies are looking at similar things with exogenous ketones, or maybe even better, the combination of a ketogenic diet or exogenous ketones. Like, I could see somebody following a ketogenic diet all the time. If they have a particularly bad night of sleep for whatever reason, maybe take a little extra shot of exogenous ketones, pump that ketone level up, see if that helps more. Purely hypothesis, but I'm just trying to think of how we could extrapolate different hypotheses from this study to see how else we could help people. Because, poor performance after a bad night's sleep really makes a difference. And especially for shift workers, people who are up all night, who work the graveyard shift, it's just their job. They have no say in the matter, right? They have to do it. And then their sleep is disrupted during the day. Maybe being in ketosis could help those people as well. These are all really fascinating studies that I'd like to see more of, but this is a great start. And hopefully we will see more. So hopefully this was helpful, gives you a little more insight about the function of ketogenic diets and ketosis, how it affects the brain, and how it can affect cognitive performance. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you here next time on Diet Doctor News on YouTube.